When Donald Trump leaned into his microphone that night and let his words fly, the air in the room shifted instantly. It wasn't the usual brand of sarcasm or political mockery that people had grown used to hearing from him. This time he aimed lower, targeting Barack Obama's marriage. It was the kind of remark that didn't just sting it unsettled everyone listening. The crowd had been primed for fiery exchanges, but few expected a line that personal, one that pierced into family life, a space often treated as sacred even in the most heated debates. For a split second, people weren't sure they had heard him correctly. The insult about Obama's marriage landed with an uncomfortable weight, the sort of moment where laughter doesn't come easily, and where silence feels louder than any shout. Trump had always thrived on pushing boundaries, testing how far he could go without losing the crowd. To him, stepping over the line wasn't a risk, it was strategy. Yet this particular jab didn't have the effect he might have hoped. Instead of laughter echoing back or his supporters cheering him on, there was a pause, a stiffness in the air that suggested even those on his side understood he had gone too far. The cameras zoomed in on faces in the audience, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats, others covering their mouths in disbelief. For those watching at home, social media timelines exploded with reactions. Did he just say that? For Barack Obama, the moment was more than a personal affront. It was a test of character on live television. Everyone knew he could fire back. He had the wit, the humor, and the intelligence to dismantle his opponents in a matter of seconds. But this wasn't just another political quip he had to counter. It was an insult against the foundation of his life, the marriage he had built with Michelle, one that had stood as a symbol of unity and resilience for so many. Trump had crossed into territory that was no longer about policies, speeches, or public personas. It was about respect, dignity, and values. People often underestimate the power of moments like these. They are small in duration, maybe lasting only a few seconds, but they can define reputations for years. Trump's choice to take aim at Obama's marriage revealed something deeper about his style, a willingness to go after the most intimate parts of a person's life, if it meant winning attention. The shock wasn't just in what he said, it was in the fact that he dared to say it at all, in front of millions of viewers, without hesitation. It was a break from the unwritten rules of political sparring, where family is usually kept off, no matter how fierce the rivalry. As the room absorbed his words, the contrast between the two men became clearer than ever. Trump thrived on provocation, while Obama was known for measured restraint. This wasn't the first time Trump had crossed lines with his words, but this time, it was personal in a way that the public hadn't seen before. People expected a heated exchange, maybe even shouting. What they didn't expect was the quiet weight of the insult itself, hanging there, daring Obama to respond. What made the moment shocking wasn't just the insult, it was the realization that the boundaries of live political debate had shifted. If Trump could publicly insult a marriage, then what was left that was safe from attack? Viewers at home began to speculate in real time, scrolling through reactions and typing their own. Many expressed outrage, pointing out that such comments revealed more about Trump than about Obama. Others admitted that while they were used to Trump's harsh rhetoric, even they were surprised he would go so far. The collective reaction became part of the story, shaping how the moment would be remembered long after the camera stopped rolling. Barack Obama didn't need to raise his voice to highlight that a line had been crossed. The pause before his response was powerful enough. Those few seconds of silence, where the audience shifted uneasily and Trump tried to bask in the chaos he had created, spoke volumes. It was a silence that reflected shock, disapproval, and a growing awareness that the insult had backfired. That night, millions didn't just see a politician attack another politician. They saw a man expose himself by revealing how little respect he was willing to show. Would you like me to expand keynote to the same way in 700 words with him mentioned? When the words left Donald Trump's mouth, the room seemed to hold its breath. The insult about Barack Obama's marriage was still hanging in the air, and all eyes turned to the former president. It wasn't just the audience in the hall, but millions watching from their living rooms, waiting to see how he would react. For a moment, Obama didn't move. He didn't flinch, didn't rush to the microphone, didn't throw back a quick retort. Instead, he let the silence sit there, heavy and uncomfortable, like a mirror reflecting Trump's words back at him. That pause was deliberate. It was the kind of silence that said more than 1,000 rushed comebacks ever could. People underestimate how powerful silence can be in a heated exchange. Trump thrived on speed and disruption, always ready with another jab to keep his opponent off balance. But when Obama didn't immediately answer, Trump lost his rhythm. The crowd shifted uneasily. In their seats, the cameras capturing expressions of confusion, anticipation, and even embarrassment. Some of Trump's supporters cheered half-heartedly, but even that sound faded quickly as they realized Obama was refusing to play his game. Barack Obama was no stranger to pressure. He had faced years interruptions and insults before, but his instinct was never to match chaos with chaos. That night, his stillness was his strategy. He looked straight at Trump, with that familiar, calm expression that carried more weight than a glare. His composure reminded everyone why people had once trusted him to lead through some of the most turbulent years in recent history. Instead of reacting emotionally, he chose to hold the stage with quiet control, and in doing so, he changed the tone of the entire exchange. The silence stretched just long enough to make the audience think. In those seconds, people weren't replaying Trump's insult anymore, they were watching Obama, wondering how he would frame his answer, and that shift in focus was crucial. Trump had intended to dominate the moment, but Obama reclaimed it. Without speaking a word, the longer he stayed calm, the more the insult began to look small, petty, and out of place. The cameras caught Trump fidgeting, adjusting his microphone, and attempting a smirk, but it was clear he was waiting too. The power balance had tilted. When Obama finally spoke, his tone was steady, measured, almost conversational. There was no anger in his voice, no sharp edge of bitterness. Instead, he spoke with the ease of someone who had nothing to prove. That composure made his words cut deeper, because he didn't need to shout to make them sting. He let Trump's insult hang in the air as proof of its own weakness, then calmly explained what respect in a marriage looks like, what loyalty truly means, and why love is stronger than mockery. By speaking this way, he didn't just defend himself, he elevated the conversation, leaving Trump's remark looking cheap by comparison. What made the moment shocking was not that Obama responded, but how he responded. Most people in his position would have gone on the attack, raising their voice, or pointing fingers. But his decision to stay calm under pressure reminded the audience of a leadership style that was built on discipline and dignity. The pause, before his words, had given weight to everything that followed, and by the time he finished, the room was firmly in his corner. Viewers watching from home began posting about the way Obama had handled the insult. Many said the silence was more powerful than any one-liner could have been. Others pointed out that it exposed the difference in temperament between the two men, one leaning on provocation and noise, the other relying on patience and presence. The composure became part of the story, a lesson in how self-control can disarm an opponent more effectively than anger. Even those who didn't agree with Obama politically couldn't deny that the way he handled the situation showed a kind of poise that is rare in modern politics. By choosing not to meet insult with insult, he shifted the focus back to character, something Trump's remark had so clearly abandoned. In that moment, Obama reminded everyone that leadership isn't only about what you say, but also how you carry yourself when tested. The silence he created wasn't empty, it was filled with meaning. It made people reflect on the contrast they were witnessing, the difference between recklessness and restraint. By holding the room with nothing but composure, Obama turned Trump's attack into a self-inflicted wound. The insult had been meant to embarrass him, but instead it revealed the strength of a man who didn't need to shout to win. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 3 the same way in 700 words with him mentioned? When Barack Obama finally opened his mouth to respond, the room leaned in, eager to hear how he would handle the insult Donald Trump had just thrown at his marriage. What came out wasn't anger or defensiveness, was a carefully chosen set of words that worked like a mirror. Instead of lowering himself to Trump's level, Obama turned the moment around by shining a light on his own life and, in doing so, exposed everything Trump hoped to hide. He began by speaking softly about Michelle, about the years they had spent together, the battles they had fought side by side, and the ways their relationship had held steady under pressures few couples could imagine. His words were not just about love, they were about respect, loyalty, and trust. He painted a picture of what partnership looked like, of nights when they leaned on each other, of times when Michelle's strength carried him through. He wasn't boasting, he was reminding people that a marriage isn't just a public display, it is a daily act of commitment. Every example he gave made Trump's insult seem smaller, meaner, and out of touch with what real family bonds look like. But Obama didn't stop there. With the same calm tone, he began to shift his focus, subtly turning the spotlight toward Trump. Without naming scandals outright, he hinted at the widely known cracks in Trump's personal life. He contrasted respect with infidelity, loyalty with betrayal, strength with fragility. He didn't need to say every detail. Everyone listening already knew the stories. They knew about the headlines, the controversies, the public fallout that had followed Trump's own marriages. Obama didn't accuse, he simply held up his own life as a model and let the audience connect the dots. The brilliance of his approach was in its restraint. If he had listed Trump's history directly, it might have sounded like an attack. But by focusing on his own marriage, he created a natural comparison that exposed Trump without even having to say his name. The crowd understood. They began to clap, first in scattered bursts, then in waves of applause that grew louder with each line. They weren't just cheering for Obama, they were reacting to the truth that was unfolding in front of them. Trump tried to interject, leaning toward the microphone as if to cut him off, but the timing was wrong. Every time he shifted, Obama's words seemed to land harder, making it impossible for Trump to take back control of the stage. The contrast between them became painfully obvious, one man attempting to disrupt, the other calmly dismantling him with dignity. Viewers at home could see it too. Clips of the moment began circulating almost instantly, with captions pointing out how Obama had flipped the insult into a powerful statement about love and respect. Asterisk. The shock wasn't just in the comeback itself, was in how effortlessly Obama had managed to turn Trump's words against him. The insult had been meant to humiliate, but instead it highlighted the strength of Obama's character and the weakness of Trump's attack. For the audience, it became clear that Obama had not only defended his marriage, but also redefined the entire exchange. Trump's insult no longer looked like a bold move. It looked like desperation. Asterisk. What gave Obama's words their impact was the fact that they were rooted in lived truth. People had seen the Obamas together for years, holding hands, laughing, standing shoulder to shoulder in public life. They had become a symbol of partnership that resonated far beyond politics. When Obama spoke about Michelle, it wasn't a performance. It was authenticity, and that authenticity stood in stark contrast to the headlines and stories that had followed. Trump, asterisk. The audience could feel the difference, and so could those watching at home. It wasn't just a political win, it was a human one. Obama had shown that strength doesn't come from insults, but from the ability to stand firm in your values, even when someone tries to drag you down. His words didn't just answer Trump, they elevated the conversation, reminding people of what really matters, beyond politics and spectacle, asterisk. By the time he finished, the applause drowned out any attempt Trump made to reclaim attention. The words had landed, the mirror had been held up, and the contrast between the two men was undeniable. What began as an insult meant to embarrass Barack Obama ended with Donald Trump being exposed. Not through anger or accusation, but through the quiet power of truth. Asterisk. Do you want me to also expand Keynote 4 in 700 words with him mentioned, just like this? The moment Barack Obama finished his response, the room erupted. What had started as an uncomfortable silence after Donald Trump's insult had now turned into thunderous applause, a standing ovation that seemed to roll through the hall like a wave. The cameras caught the expressions on people's faces, relief, admiration, even awe. They weren't just clapping for a clever comeback. They were applauding the way Obama had carried himself with dignity while dismantling his opponent. That contrast was powerful, and it spread beyond the room almost instantly, asterisk, within minutes. Clips of the exchange began appearing online. Social media platforms lit up, flooded with short videos and captions like "Obama handled that perfectly," and "This is how you shut someone down with class." Hashtags trended worldwide, with users replaying the moment over and over, dissecting every pause, every expression, and every line Obama delivered. People didn't just see a response, they saw an example of composure under pressure, and in an age where viral moments often thrive on chaos, this one stood out because it was rooted in calm control. Asterisk. News outlets wasted no time amplifying the story. Headlines appeared across major sites. Obama turns insult into indignity, Trump's attack backfires on live TV, and marriage remark leaves Trump outplayed. Commentators replayed the footage during late-night shows, pointing out how Obama's silence had set the stage, and how his words had reframed the entire exchange. Even political analysts who often tried to stay neutral couldn't help but note the effectiveness of his approach. It wasn't just that Trump had lost control of the moment, it was that Obama had redefined it so completely that the insult no longer seemed important. Asterisk. What struck viewers most was the composure. Barack Obama didn't shout, didn't insult, didn't use the moment to score cheap points. Instead, he spoke in a way that reminded people of the values they wanted to see in leadership: respect, patience, and integrity. By holding to those values, he not only countered Trump, but also gave the public a glimpse of what it means to rise above disrespect. For many, it was refreshing to see someone refuse to meet negativity with more negativity, especially on a stage, where provocation is often rewarded. Asterisk. The public reaction grew beyond politics. Couples began sharing the clip, writing about how it reminded them of their own relationships and why respect matters more than appearances. Teachers used it as an example of conflict resolution, showing how silence and measured words can be more powerful than shouting matches. Even some of Trump's usual supporters admitted online that the insult had been a mistake, a line that didn't land the way he intended. Asterisk. For Donald Trump, the aftermath wasn't what he expected. He thrived on dominating the conversation, but this time, the conversation had turned against him. Every attempt to defend or redirect only reminded people of what had happened. His insult was replayed not as a show of strength but as a misstep, a cheap shot that highlighted the very flaws Obama had exposed with his calm response. The viral moment became less about the words Trump had spoken and more about the way Obama had turned them back on him. Asterisk. The shock spread because people understood. They had witnessed something rare. Live television is unpredictable, but rarely does it produce a moment where one person is so completely disarmed without their opponent even raising their voice. That night, Obama showed that you can dismantle someone not with insults, but with truth delivered calmly and confidently. The applause in the room was only the beginning. The ripple effect carried on for days, with millions revisiting the moment as a reminder of how character reveals itself under pressure. Asterisk. What made the reaction so strong wasn't only the victory over Trump, it was the larger message people took from it, they saw that dignity could still win in a space filled with noise, that restraint could outshine provocation, and that words rooted in sincerity could silence even the loudest of voices. Barack Obama had not just answered an insult, he had created a moment that reminded people why respect still matters, even when someone else has chosen to abandon it. Asterisk, do you also want me to craft the ending statements in 500 words with him mentioned, to complete the full set? As the dust settled from that unforgettable night, what lingered wasn't Donald Trump's insult, but Barack Obama's response. The image of him standing calmly, refusing to be dragged into the mud, became the lasting impression. It reminded people that leadership is often revealed not in planned speeches or prepared statements, but in unguarded moments where character is tested. Trump had chosen provocation, hoping to dominate through shock. Obama had chosen dignity, and in doing so, he redefined the exchange entirely. Asterisk, the ending of that confrontation was more than a victory. In a debate, it became a lesson. It showed that insults, no matter how sharp, lose their power when they meet steadiness. Obama didn't need to match Trump's energy to prove a point. He let restraint become his strength. By holding firm to his values, he reminded millions watching that true power doesn't come from being the loudest in the room, but from being the most grounded. Asterisk, in the days that followed, conversations about the moment grew louder than the insult itself. Families, classrooms, and workplaces discussed not what was said, but how it was answered. People replayed the silence, the patience, and the way Obama had turned the insult into a reflection of respect and loyalty. That was the shock of it all, not that Trump had gone too far, but that Obama had taken something meant to humiliate and transformed it into a reminder of what resilience looks like. Asterisk, Trump's words faded into the background, but Obama's response kept echoing. It highlighted the gap between tearing someone down and lifting something up. Trump had exposed his willingness to cross personal boundaries for attention, but Obama exposed something far more lasting, the idea that you don't need to abandon your principles to win. The crowd's applause, the viral clips, the headlines that followed all were proof that people recognized the difference. They weren't just responding to clever phrasing, they were responding to authenticity. Asterisk, and that authenticity is what made the moment endure. Barack Obama's marriage had long been seen as a symbol of partnership and respect, but that night, it became a shield against mockery. By speaking with honesty about Michelle and their life together, he didn't just defend himself. He elevated the discussion beyond the reach of Trump's insult. He showed that when someone tries to reduce you with words, the most powerful response is to stand taller, not stoop lower. Asterisk, in the end, the shocking part wasn't Trump's attempt to insult, it was how completely it backfired. The real story became the applause, the viral reaction, and the reminder that leadership is about how you handle disrespect. Barack Obama left the stage that night not just having silenced his opponent, but having reminded the world that dignity is not weakness, and calm is not surrender. They are strengths that, when displayed in the face of insult, can destroy an attack more completely than any shouted retort ever could. Asterisk. Do you want me to merge all keynotes 1 to 4 and the ending statements into one continuous storytelling piece, so it reads like a full flow?